Hi, this is Pastor Dave. Welcome back to the Gowanda Assembly of God YouTube channel. This is message number 4 in a series of 4 on the book of Ecclesiastes called Vanity. And the tagline for today is, "What are you afraid of?" Hope this ministers to you and challenges your life to live differently. Let's read this scripture today together. Psalm 111, verse 10. It says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All those who practice it have a good understanding. His praise endures forever." You know, as I started this week, I'm realizing we have this 4-week series called Vanity. Today is the button-up message, the last of 4 that God gave me before we even started the year. And one of the things that really hit me is in going through what I was going through this week, and I'm going to kind of tell you the story, I was all of a sudden struck by the fact earlier in the week that the tagline for this last week, and this is something God showed me before we even started, was, "What are you afraid of?" And there are some things that I'm afraid of. Let's read. We're going to read a section in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 9 to 13. It says, "Besides being wise, the preacher," now this is Solomon talking about himself. He refers to himself in Ecclesiastes as the preacher. He says, "Besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge, weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs with great care," the book of Proverbs. "The preacher sought to find words of delight, and uprightly he wrote words of truth. The words of the wise are like goads, and like nails firmly fixed are the collected sayings. They are given by one shepherd. My son, beware of anything beyond these. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil." There are times as a pastor, I want to bring a message and bring out something maybe you've never seen. And sometimes I need to just come back to simple. And I've had actually some people in my life say, "Hey, bring it back to a little simpler." Sometimes there's a lot to think of there, and simple is just so good because it's easy to understand, it impacts you, and it can be so deep. So I'm kind of pulling back to more simple than I sometimes like to go to. I like to have deep conversations about all kinds of things, but sometimes simple is really what's needed. You know, this says, "Beware of anything beyond these," the commandments of God. Beware of anything beyond these. Just be simple in what you believe, what he has said. "Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh." Now, there are lots of great books out there about aspects of prayer. We use Bible studies, video Bible studies a lot of times on Wednesdays, and they'll kind of go off on a tangent and explore some things, but the important thing is that the very simple truth of the word is being brought out and not some side thought. There's actually a section in C.S. Lewis' book, The Great Divorce, where there's a character who has become so lofty in his thoughts that he's begun actually to create false doctrines. And in the book, the character says, "You would love this paper I'm writing right now. It's about how Jesus died in his early 30s. And what a tragedy that is. How much of his life wasn't developed, and how much could we have learned had he matured into old age?" Complete heresy. But it's an interesting thought. What would Jesus have looked like at 60? What would Jesus have looked like as a dad? That's not why he came here. He came here to die for me because I am dead in sin. That's the point. Not that he was a great guy or that his life was cut short before he got to teach some of his best sermons. That's not the point at all. He said of himself, "I do only what I see the Father doing." He did only what the Spirit led him, only what his Father told him. He did everything he came to do. His life was not cut short. His life was fully lived to the last breath because he said, "It is cut short." Nope. "It is tragic that I'm going so early." No. It is finished. He came to lay out and to do what had been dress rehearsed for so long in the sacrifice of a spotless lamb whose blood would be laid on the mercy seat. His blood was laid on the mercy seat. The separation was done, and it was finished. Amen. Very simple message. Now, when you think of the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. There are two kinds of fear. At the beginning of the week, this was my fear. Do you recognize this fear? This is the, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how that financial thing is going to be met. I thought maybe it would be met this way. It's not. The numbers, the trends aren't looking great. What's going to happen? What if this crashes? What if I lose this? What if I don't get better? And you worry and you scramble for a way to make things work. You scramble for that person you can lean on, that somehow, and it's stressful, and you feel the weight on your chest. There was a time this week where it felt like somebody was sitting on my chest. Like all my breath was down here. And you get into those moments where you just find yourself going, and when you breathe out, it's like somebody's sitting on your chest. This is us carrying it, okay? There's a different fear, I think, that is the fear of the Lord. I think it looks like this. It's very sober. It's very serious. It's contemplative. It doesn't downplay the situation. It knows when there's bills to be paid. It knows when there's unanswered sickness. It knows when the load is so big, but it's keenly aware of a supplier that's there. And the face is one that doesn't know what he'll do or when, but just that he will. It may not be easy. There may be moments with bigger questions than you have now, but it's a healthy fear, respect, understanding, just a part of an understanding of how majestic and able he is to carry out the plan he has started. This is a different fear than this. This fear is on you. This fear is on him. There's joy in this fear. Maybe not happiness immediately, but joy. There is no joy here. Joy seems impossible here. And almost in the room waiting to burst forth here. I want to read this one more time. Besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge, weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs with great care. The preacher sought to find words of delight, and uprightly he wrote words of truth. The words of the wise are like goads, and like nails firmly fixed are the collected sayings. They are given by one shepherd. My son, beware of anything beyond these. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. There are things in our world that are true. Positive thinking is a good thing. Believing that things will work out is a good thing. Getting up early and working hard is a good thing. Being focused is a good thing. Spending your time in the Word and in prayer, they're all good things. None of them is the answer. Your answer is literally the person of Jesus Christ. That should be what draws you to prayer. Just lately I've been thinking, I get distracted really easy in study and in prayer time. We have a prayer room at our house. It's in a dormer up in our bedroom. It's right above the schoolroom, so it's not always quiet. I've sat in there with earmuffs on a few times, and it's a great place to read and study, but I get distracted. And I thought, I'm going to secretly build a little cardboard hut and put it upstairs in what used to be our sound room. Nobody will know it's there. That's going to be my little prayer room. Would love that. And I'm going to write verses inside with a magic marker on the cardboard. And how cool it will be someday when somebody finds Dave's secret prayer hut. I found a prayer spot. You want to know where it is? Here's my prayer spot. I take off my shoes and I get under my desk. I'm totally serious. Totally serious. So if you ever come to the church and the door's open but there's no lights on, there's a little post-it note on the door that means I'm under my desk. Don't get afraid when you come in the office and I say, "Oh, hey," and then you have a heart attack in my office. So, but I'm totally serious. Like all of a sudden I'm here and God just reveals to me, "Listen, I've called you to this place. Why don't you just seek me right here?" So I intend to spend a significant amount of time under my desk, preferably before I'm working at my desk. I want you to have a pastor who goes to him in prayer and knows where we're going because I've talked with him, not because I know what you like or what you want or where you think we should go. If you all as a body that I've been called to lead, not because I have any specific skill, but simply because he's chose something simple to glorify himself through, if I take all of your thoughts and your wishes and I lead through those, that's not leading. He wants to change us all. So the thoughts need to be something different, something almost against the grain of how we've been doing it, because he wants to do something new and miraculous in us. He wants to change our world. Change means change. It means not the same. It means not always familiar, not always comfortable. It's different, but it's good. So here's the story. Early in the week, I'm having a tough time. Business-wise, hasn't been a huge month. I feel responsible to everyone involved in what God's doing over here, and let me tell you, God is doing something over here. This church has been amazing. This church has come from a point where we were 20-some people on a Sunday, half of which had the last name Pratt. Okay? They have since moved to Arkansas, but they can attest. I mean, they pull in the driveway, we're like, all right, we're going to hit 20. But this church was in that place at a time, and in that time, we financially could not survive. But God had blessed us with a parsonage that we weren't using. That parsonage is now lived in by the Lawton family. And they're blessed. They purchased that property from our church, which allowed us to pay off about $50,000 in debt and gave us some money to work with and to restart. That money did some great things. It helped us to survive until we came to a point where we could float on our own. And that really started right about the time of the transition from Randy to me. And we started off the year in an amazing way. We saw a little bit of a light bank account grow. And in that time, I remember saying to our board, I just know that he wants us to live a little bit closer to the line than this. And we began to do some things. We blessed another church across town with some stuff that they needed. We began to reach out and to do some new things. Well, in the past couple of months of the year, in the last couple of months of 2016, he's pulling us closer to that line. And part of that is exactly what he wants to do. But as a person who half of my background is in business and half of my background is in ministry, there's a business side of me that says, red flag, not good. We're going this way, and the trend is going this way, and it's not good. And I'm seeing things come closer to where I don't want to project out that trend 2 months. But he's in control, and he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. But I begin to have that hands in the face, head down, what do I do, what do I do? I have heard enough family members and different people in my life when I wasn't a pastor say, seems like all they do is talk about money. I never want to be the pastor who's talking about the funds and raising funds and keep giving all the time. Does it need to be talked about sometimes? Yes. Today? Nope. We'll talk about it a little bit when we go over finances at the business meeting, but it's not the message today. The message today is, what are you afraid of? And that's one of the things I'm afraid of. That's one of the things I've grown up fearing. What about this? What about that? Relationships. Where are things going to go? And I know he can drive up here, and I've had experiences where I've stepped off the cliff and he's held me up. But I was going through a time early in the week where I was bumming. Just not having a good day. So I needed to run down to Dunkirk and get a toner for the printer in my office. So I said, I'm just going to take this drive. A couple of things had happened earlier in the week. I was discouraged. And My truck, I drive a 2005 Trailblazer. Love it, but it is a pig. It just is a gas hog. Like the average mileage was like 11 and a half in the past couple weeks. It's been cold, whatever. And I'm driving around town a lot, but that's like a lot of gas. So I literally grabbed a coffee at Tim Hortons, and I was just about to the light, and I reset the mileage counter, and I said, God, could you let me get 15 miles of the gallon going to Dunkirk and back? And, over in this ear is, well, you think you're Gideon? You can't do stuff like that. That's just stupid. And I said, you know what? Whatever. If he wants to do something, he can. I'm not, let him out of the box. I said, could you? And I'm thinking, I'm going to get back into town, and it's going to be like 15.0 miles of the gallon. So I take off. I'm driving, and I'm driving the speed limit. And he just begins to talk to me in this drive. So I go up the hill. I get behind this truck that's going really slow. And I'm like, there's no fire. I don't need to be in Dunkirk 3 minutes sooner. Just whatever. So I follow this truck, go up the hill. Eventually the truck turns off. I'm just kind of cruising, doing the speed limit. And I'm noticing that I'm relaxed in this. There's no rush. And the speed limit is what I'm called to. And in my life, there are things I'm called to do. There is work I'm called to do here. This is part of what I do. And I believe God is we're going to see people saved. But I'm only called to what He's called me to today. I don't need to get ahead of that and try to make it happen faster than what He's laid out. I think some things are going to happen really fast. But I only need to do what I'm called to. And so do you. Simple. Just what you're called to. So I'm just driving, 35 into 35, 45 into 45, 65 into 55. You know how it works. No. But I'm driving the speed limit, drive down there, go and get my thing down in Dunkirk, and they have a display cabinet there, and I purchase willow tree things for Sarah. It's just one of the things I do. A couple of winters ago, I did our whole family. And it was like the most epic gift ever. The family is now in a bag because it got knocked off the shelf 4 or 5 times, and I have to glue some people back together. But it was an awesome. We have kids. If you've never heard a bottle of extra virgin olive oil explode on your tile, you're missing out. That was Saturday. So I'm there and I'm looking at this display case, and I thought I would love to get her something because you know what? The reality is, I'm way more of a roller coaster than Sarah is. And there are days when I feel bad, and even worse because she's helping to carry my low spot. But I see her in the Word. And I know she's in the Word. So I look in this cabinet, and there's a little girl sitting with a Bible. And what do you think the name of this is? Nope. The name of this figurine is wisdom. Would you believe that? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And he's talking to me. Listen, Dave, the tagline in this last part of Ecclesiastes is, what are you afraid of? Now, how many messages could I do on what are you afraid of? He's doing some things in your life. What are you afraid of? He's brought you to a place where there's no answer. What are you afraid of? You're in your bedroom and it's dark. What are you afraid of? And like that question needs you to answer, what is it that you're afraid of? Because until we identify the thing that is bigger than Him in our heart, we don't know what it is that we need to overcome and leave back here. So what are you afraid of? Now, the verses we read in Ecclesiastes just now said, fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Is it my duty to pay my bills? Yep. Is it my duty to try not to have people mad at me? Yep. But the entirety, wrap up all my duties before Him. And it says, fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. What I do each day should be coming from my fear of Him, not my fear of anything else. That's my driver. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, one chapter back. Though a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, yet I know that it will be well with those who fear God because they fear before Him. Are there lots of people out there that are going to seem like everything works out well for them? They don't even know God? Yup. But Solomon, in his wisdom, says it goes well for those who fear God. As I'm dealing with all this week, I'm at my desk. Jim and I had some conversations. I was super challenged by some things that we talked about. He actually apologized for some of the things that we talked about this week because he felt like he was piling it on me, but it was really important. It was really good. So we put the budget together on Thursday night, and we really feel like we stepped out on it. The budget has been right in a certain area for years. We're seeing a year kind of tail down. We're seeing a trend we don't like, but we're stepping out on what we believe he's calling us to, and it's actually a little bit bigger budget than we've done in the past because we know what he's calling us to. How will he do it? Who will he use to make that happen? Don't know, and I kind of don't care because it's not about me, and it's not about the numbers. It's about us simply following him and seeing what he wants done in a year. So in that, he prompts me to go specifically to Psalm 127. We're going to talk about this more in the board meeting, but our budget for the past 5-6 years has been right between $100,000 and $9,000 for everything we do in a year. All of our payroll, all of our outreach, all of our utilities, everything. And we put our budget together and really sought him on it and what we did. In fact, Isaac was home with Mary the night. She wasn't even home yet. He was home with the kids. And we set it and we thought, man, this is kind of aggressive. And I just buzzed up Isaac and I said, we just set the budget. I have a number here. What do you think? I gave him nothing. Not here's last year's budget, which he would know. Not any of our thoughts. And he said 125. And we all were like, what? The budget is 127 too. Okay? Of that, $10,000 is allocated to ministry right here in our town. Reaching out to people in our town. Partnering with people in our town to see people saved in our town. This is going to be our mission field along with other things we do. We gave increasingly last year to missions. We're going to do bigger this year. And again, I don't know how, but we're going to do it. So I'm sitting at my desk and I feel just prompted. Sometimes when I go to hospitals and visit people, we'll take their room number and we'll read that psalm, won't we? And you'd be amazed how it fits. So he says, Psalm 127. Psalm 127. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil. Pull out the knife. Okay, that's what I was dealing with all week. For he gives to his beloved sleep. And then it says, behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is a man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate. You want to take a wild guess what the heading on Psalm 129 is? Blessed is everyone who fears the Lord. Wow. Talk about him just saying, I gotcha. You can take the step. I know you can't see what you're standing on, but you can take the step. You're doing what's right. Now remember what it said in Ecclesiastes? That it will be well with those who fear God. And back here, fear God and keep his commandments. This is the whole duty. It says in Ecclesiastes 8:12, yet I know that it will be well with those who fear God because they fear before him. Psalm 128, 1 and 2 says, blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. You shall eat the fruit of the labor of your hands. You shall be blessed, and it shall be well with you. Let me tell you, man, it's been a crazy week. I don't like weeks like this, feeling so pressed, feeling like I'm going to disappoint you, like I'm going to fail. But he pulls me into this time to teach me things. He has my heart. And there's nothing that I won't do if I know he's asking me to. It's when I get in those doubt moments and I question myself and how's this all going to happen, that I just let the enemy's chatter get into me a little bit too much. And that's where he's changing my heart. Let me give you the end of the story. I come back into town, and I have this little figure that I want to give to Sarah. So I park in the driveway, I come out, and I said, can you come outside for a minute? I'm not going to take you anywhere, just put your shoes and coat on, come sit in the truck with me. And I began to explain to her my drive, down and back. And I gave her this thing and shared with her what God was pressing on me, and that the name of this was wisdom, and that, I'm thankful for the fact that I know she's in the Word, and I know she's supporting me, and her heart is with me when I'm going through these tough times. And I said, I kind of asked God for a wacky thing when I was leaving Gowanda. And it's kind of a fleece, and I know, you know what, he can talk to me if he wants to. So I said, check this out. And I started the truck. My gas pig going to Dunkirk and back to my house got 18.4 miles to the gallon. How? It's not even rated that on the highway. I think it's rated 17. But to me, you know what? That's God saying, can I do that? Please. I can do this. I can do this. And that goes right along with what we as a board in this church have decided. My question at the beginning of the week is, can we run payroll in 3 weeks, 4 weeks? And he's going, are you serious? How about let's up the budget? How about let's take it to here? Let's do the things I'm putting in your heart. So in your life, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And in that question, I want that to sink in. If there's a little bit of conviction in there, that's okay. But his heart is not to dig out and put in your face, what are you afraid of instead of him? His desire is to bring out the things that keep you from him, that keep you from setting in his hands with that sober but expectant, joys in the room face, instead of hands down, head down, how am I going to do this, buried in stress. That is going to help nobody. And you know what? I want to be a dad who's hopeful, that my kids see having the face of, okay, we're in a serious spot. We need to trust him. We need to be wise, but we need to trust him. That's what I want. And I'm hoping that there are spots in your life where this is alive and new things are going to happen. When you are walking in his plan, there is nothing to be afraid of. Let's pray together.
As we close up this message, there are several things in any life that are going to determine actions, and typically the thing that drives you the hardest is the thing that you have the most respect or fear for in your life. So I want you this week to just stop and think about this message and look at the thing that you are most concerned with, most driven by, or afraid of in your life. And if that isn't your Creator and his plan, a healthy respect, then I pray that you would take some time in quiet and the slow of the day to ask him to become that biggest thing in your life. Hope you have a great week, and blessings to you and your families.